Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in this event on navigating the integrations maze in Salesforce. But the principal focus is talk about strategies for seamless planning and implementations. This topic is very important for everyone in Salesforce and the company. We have a special guest, Neha Nagori. She is Salesforce MVP, CTA, Certified Technical Architect. She is instructor. I had the amazing opportunity to meet her at the last year in Dringole event. Thank you so much for joining us, Neha, and being able to learn from you in this event. I told you this presentation in Dringole was my favorite in that moment. Can you next slide, please? Perfect. Thank you. This event is coordinated by the community, architect community of Madrid, and the principal lead is my partner, Bárbara García. She is a Salesforce Senior Solution Architect. It's an amazing reference for a lot of people in the Salesforce ecosystems. I am Sara Hernandez, Salesforce Solution Architect, Salesforce MVP, great content, and I have the different podcasts if you want to follow me in LinkedIn. And Golden Hoodie and more. Thank you so much, everyone, again for joining us. We are with you, Neha.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Barbara, for having me here and for the kind introduction. Just to introduce myself again, I am Neha. I'm based in Dubai and it's currently 10:06 over here, 10:06 p.m. And I'm a Salesforce certified technical architect, a Salesforce MVP, and a certified Salesforce instructor. I co-founded a company called as Cloud Early, based in Dubai and India, and we primarily work with Salesforce digital transformation projects for our customers, and we are also associated with government entities here in Dubai. The reason why I'm telling you about the kind of projects we work is mostly the enterprise level projects, and the biggest challenge that I see is integrating the systems together. And when it comes to integrating, people lack a lot of knowledge. They may know knowledge of their own domain, their own systems, but when it comes to stitching the process, it just doesn't become a technical problem, but a problem for everybody to solve. You need an executor, you need a planner, and how you as an architect should be involved in that process is what we are going to talk about today. You as an architect should be able to make everybody's life easier, and it's your duty to help your project management team, your scrum team, to prioritize things or keep things on the priority list in your agile process based on what you feel should be done first or later, depending on the timeline of the integration that you're going to do. And how you should do that is we're going to talk now. Like I said, it's a nightmare. I just We can take use of the chats over here, and if you want to interact in the chat, like Sarah said, you can share them here and keep interacting with me. Let me know if you have worked in a project and integration became a nightmare at some point of time for you. I would like to hear your stories as well. If in the end we get some time, we could make an interactive session. Just put that in the chat and let me know about it. But why does it have to be a nightmare, and why and what could go wrong? So systems don't understand the language that you speak. Systems may be present in a way that they speak different languages. When I talk about systems, right now I'm talking in English. You all are from Spain, and suddenly if you start asking me questions in Spanish, I may not understand, right? So same things happen with system. If first system is able to talk in REST API and the other system only talks SOAP API, which is the different kind of languages that they talk with, they will not be able to integrate the data together. They will not understand each other's language. So that is one thing. You should be able to translate the protocols that are present with the systems, at the same time maintain the data integrity. One such thing that may happen wrong is what you can see in this image over here. I asked AI to produce something and they generate something, right? This should not happen in your systems. Different kind of things that could go wrong are the timelines. Many of projects that I used to work with these kind of constraints have timelines. People or solution architects were not able to give the right estimations, and that led to moving the go live date. Data integrity issues, because the integration was not set up correctly, it led to duplicate or wrong data as well. Now, when you have these kind of issues, it directly impacts your budget, as you are piling a lot of tech debt, and last minute fixes are not doing you any good because you could not deliver it on time. And the most important thing you lose is the trust with your business or stakeholders, your customers, because you did not do as what you planned for. And this is the biggest disaster that can happen if you lose a little bit of product feature or anything while going live. That is also fine, but if you lose trust, that's for long. Now, how do you gain the trust? How do you make sure you have their traction, right? The first step when you're working with an integration is to ask yourself questions when then integration requirement comes. When a project that you take up, first you need to understand what business they do. Do they sell products or do they sell services? What is their business presence? Are they locally present, globally present, or regionally present? Why does that matter whether they are locally present or regionally present? Because it's Salesforce can just be one single system, but when it interacts with multiple systems, say for example, a regulated system like ERP could be a separate instance for separate process or business unit or a country. An ERP can be separate for USA, Australia, and Asia, whereas Salesforce can be just one entity having customer master of everything. But what if you need to transfer data to all the three ERPs? That could be a global system. That's how you see a global system, having multiple systems based on multiple business units and regions. But whereas in a local system, you might just have one or two integrations here and there. Because of the presence of business, it will give you an idea of the variety of the enterprise landscape that you have. Moving on to the industry side, yes, so banking, insurance, healthcare, telecom will let you know the kind of data you're dealing with, the kind of external systems you integrate with, and most important, regulations and compliance. You should always talk to your regulatory specialist, your legal advisors, legal teams, to understand whether you need to send any data to another system or store some data which is PII, which has to be GDPR compliant. How do you send it over the internet? Integration, sending data from one place to another, is one aspect, but sending it securely is the most important aspect, and you should be compliant with that. So based on your industry, please do talk to your specialist and get that information out. And how big is the business? Small, medium, or enterprise? When it's an enterprise business, you're dealing with large volumes of data, and you're dealing with large volumes of data. You have to send the data in bulk, in batches, to the other system, and you can't just do it with a single REST API. You may have to go with bulk API. So the reason why I'm telling you is these all parameters will let you define the kind of integration design that you as an architect are going to suggest. If you just have to send data from one system to another, you choose REST API. Say you're working with an e-commerce website, right? And some orders are getting placed and you're using REST API. All good, all works fine. But imagine it's Amazon and it's Big Billion Days. You know, the sale day wherein people are placing orders in bulk. At that time, you'll get a surge of data, orders, and your REST API will not be able to cater that. You will have to think about that day as well while designing your solution. Now that you've taken the first step, you start the design. The three layers in the design, the three approach divides the application architecture concepts into logical categories. Each layer represents a division of tasks in the system. And the most common way is to divide the task into the following three layers. One is the UI layer, business process layer, and data layer. The system The first layer, the UI layer, is the one where the user interacts with the system, wherein they do the data entry. For example, an Experience Cloud site or a mobile application. The second is the business process layer, which is beneath the user interface layer, when all your logical process is there, wherein everything gets processed and transformed into the way it has to be put into the database. The moment the data get processed from when it's entered in, the third layer is the data layer, wherein it gets stored. Your databases, your accounts, contacts, CRM data, the SAP data, the order data, your product information systems, product data, everything has a database. And when it comes to storing the data, it becomes a data layer. Now here, I have some questions for you. These 3 questions. When you put a solution, when you are designing something for syncing data from one system to another, like data migration approach, for example, or real-time account search in another system, what do you ask yourself as a question? Put that in the chat. I can look at it. If not, then these 3 are the most important questions you should ask. And if there's something else, just put them in the chat. The first one is the volume, because definitely you have to work at the governor limits level. You don't want to get your CPU timeout. The timing, whether it's a synchronous operation or an asynchronous operation. Whenever a integration requirement is given to you, you should think whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. You should ask your business users, hey, when you're asking for this data, do you need it immediately? Or it's fine if it comes back later, right? You just don't need it immediately, then I can use some easier approach. And what's the direction? When I mention direction, the direction should be in a way that Salesforce is your center. When Salesforce makes a request for any external system, Salesforce is initiating a request. Remember that. Salesforce initiates a request to an external system to get some data or update some data. The request is going out. And when the request goes out, it's called as outbound integration. Remember, the reference is always Salesforce. But when the request is coming in from an external system, for example, you are trying to update the order information from SAP, the SAP is going to initiate the integration and put the information inside Salesforce. So for an external party is putting it inside Salesforce is inbound integration. You really can't get confused here because Salesforce is the reference. So if wherever your integration starts is the source system, if source system is Salesforce, it's an outbound integration. Okay. So make sure you know the volume, you know the timing, and you know the direction. If you want to take a screenshot of this slide, please do, because you're going to solve a case study after this. And I'm going to ask you these questions for that case study, and you'll have to tell me the solution. Now, once you have asked these questions, you should devise a pattern, a Salesforce integration pattern. Now, what is a Salesforce integration pattern? Basically, there are different kind of integrations, and Salesforce have tried to put them in the buckets. So whenever you look at a business use case that is related to integrating two systems together, you will be able to put them in one of the 6 that we are going to talk about. And when you put them in one of these 6, you will be able to narrow down your solution and find the exact right solution to your problem. So first you discuss a problem with your business user, then you try to ask some questions. And once you have your questions answered, you look at these integration patterns. The first integration pattern is remote process invocation, request and reply. Now, if you break it down a little bit, right, this one, a remote process invocation means you are invoking a remote process from Salesforce. Remote process as in some external third-party system is being invoked. It sounds like Salesforce is making a call out. The direction is from Salesforce to an external system, right? That is RPI. The next thing it says is request and reply, meaning Salesforce is trying to make a request to some external system and expecting an immediate reply, right? Which means The moment I use immediate, it is synchronous. It works on the business layer and the direction is outbound. The second kind of pattern is RPI, fire and forget. I say, hey, I have an order update, I have an account created, and I just want to fire that notification to the external system, and I don't want a response in return. I don't want to know whether the other system has received my response request or they've done anything about it. I've just notified them. So it's yet again a outbound direction, but it's asynchronous because we don't get a response back. Anything that happens in that system is not known to us in the same thread that we did. The best example for this kind of particular pattern is platform events, change data captures, right? And this one, the first one, is REST callouts from your Lightning Web Components. Data virtualization. As the name suggests, virtualization. It happens at the data layer, it's synchronous, and the direction is outbound. What happens is Salesforce sends some request out to another system to fetch some data. But the data that is fetched is only persisting on the user interface, meaning it's not stored. It looks like it's belonging to Salesforce, but it's not, right? That's why it is called as data virtualization. You just virtualize the data in front of user screen, making it look like it's belonging to Salesforce. The data footprint in reality is somewhere else. Remote call-in. If you break this down further, it's remote plus call-in, meaning a remote system is calling into Salesforce. Now someone is sending information into Salesforce to feed some information. It can be synchronous or asynchronous based on implementation solution, and it's an inbound call when initiated by external system. Okay. The next is batch data synchronization. As the name suggests, you put your data into batches and sync it, meaning when you sync data between the two systems, when you are doing data migrations, that pattern is known as batch data synchronization. You must have heard of some weekly syncs happening through batch shops in Salesforce. That is also part of batch data synchronization. Now, since sync can happen from an external system to Salesforce and Salesforce to external system, the direction here is outbound and inbound both. And the timing is asynchronous because the data gets synced in batches. The next one is UI update based on data changes. It's on the data and UI layer both. The easiest way to understand is you have a UI screen, a mobile screen over here. On this mobile screen, you're watching a scoreboard on Google. A live match is coming, and you just type on Google, "Hey Google, show me the football match score," and Google will just show you the score. Since the match is live, you want to see the latest score without refreshing the screen. So what happens is score keeps on adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 without you having to refresh. Why that is happening? Your UI of the mobile is getting updated based on the database changes that is happening in the score table behind the scenes. This kind of pattern is called as UI update based on data changes, formerly known as streaming API. Streaming API is the one that enables us to see the data in real time on the screen, but it's not refreshed. It's streaming API. It's synchronous or near real time in nature, and the direction is outbound. There are several integration tools in Salesforce. The first one is streaming API, wherein you see the data updates based on the UI changes. Platform events and change data capture are the ones wherein you fire events from Salesforce to an external system. Now, can someone tell me which pattern does this belong to from our previous slide? If you want to take a screenshot of this, you can take a screenshot to refer, and then I'll ask you some questions and you can just tell me in the chat. I hope you've taken the screenshot of the 6 patterns that we have. Can someone share what pattern is this? This is where our football score you're watching live. Anybody in the chat? No one? We go back here. Yes, you're right, Sarah. It's UI update based on data changes. Because your UI is getting updated without refreshing the screen. And as and when your data gets updated, your UI gets the information quickly. Okay. Platform events wherein we fire events to an external system to let them know or notify them that some event has happened or a message is something that I need to send to them. I fire it to them, but I don't care whether I get a response or not. What kind of pattern is this? Anyone? Fire and forget, yes. So RPI is just a prefix. Remote process invocation, yes, because I'm invoking some processes in the external system. But then again, there are two parts of remote process invocation: request and reply, and fire and forget. It's fire and forget. Change data capture is yet another form of event based mechanism in Salesforce, but it sends all the data changes that has happened. So if I change account, all the account data changes will be sent to external system. If I create an account, all the external account creation changes will be sent to external system. It's a data replication mechanism. It syncs the data from Salesforce to other system, but at the same time, it's just an event which is being passed from Salesforce out, just like platform events. So what makes this change data capture fall into what kind of pattern? Exactly. Fire and forget, you're right. Because we are again not expecting any response, whether the account has saved or not. We just fire the event to a bus and it's done. Outbound messages are yet another declarative tool, which are part of workflow actions, process builder actions, milestone actions, and flow builder actions. These are the kind of messages that I sent as a notification to a SOAP listener, an external system. I go to my workflow actions in the setup, select the object fields that I want to send to an external link, which is a SOAP based link. And whenever an workflow is rule is passed, the action happens. We don't get a response back. We never get a response. It's just a notification, an outbound message. So, which pattern does it fall under? Correct, Alejandro. Thank you so much. It's fire and forget as well. Yes. Callouts. Callouts can be Apex callout or REST callouts. And what kind can it be? You're making call out from your Salesforce Apex to another system, right? Because REST can send a request, HTTP send request, and get a HTTP response. Yes. External services are declarative tool. They are based on open API spec, wherein you register a spec from an external system into Salesforce, which will make sure that Salesforce understands the language of another system, the kind of request it needs to send. And it's a REST-based principle. You can send a request and get a response from your Salesforce flows itself. So, what does this fall under now? Exactly. It's again request and reply. Yes. REST and SOAP, there are some services that are being enabled by Salesforce by default, wherein you hit a Salesforce endpoint to create account, contact by standard URL. So an external system can just hit a REST URL to fetch a request, like getting the limits from metadata API, SOAP API, REST API. What kind of pattern is this? Where in an external system, it hitting a REST or SOAP endpoint and getting a response. Correct. It's remote call-in because it's being initiated by a remote system. Another tool that Salesforce gives us is Salesforce Connect. It's a mechanism by which you are able to connect Salesforce to an external O database, which follow any database that follows O data protocol is Salesforce Connect, and it lets you sync data back to Salesforce in a way that it's only available on UI and it's not stored. And you all are right. It's a very good audience. I love you all. It's data virtualization. Even before me asking the question, you all know the answers. The next is Heroku Connect. It helps you sync the data between Heroku Postgres database and Salesforce. It is syncing the data between the two systems. Anything that synchronizes the data? Batch data sync, you're right. Oh no, this is wrong. This is batch data sync. My slides needs a correction. This may be a typo. Oops. I revealed the next answer with that. So Canvas app is your UI, which is mashed up with another database's UI. So Salesforce has a mashup. So anything that changes in the other database is also visible in our without having to change anything on Salesforce. What pattern is this? It's changing the data. Exactly. UI updates based on data changes. Okay, so you all understand what are the different tools available in Salesforce and which pattern they fall in. So the framework that we followed were, first you ask yourself some questions. If you stumble upon any business use case, you ask these questions, then you put them into a pattern. And after putting them into a pattern, now you know which pattern has what tools. So you can devise a tool as well. Let's solve a use case. Your integration solution requires that Salesforce includes order information, but you use an external system to manage your orders. Your integration goal is to connect your external system to Salesforce to manage your orders in real time. I give you like 1 minute and you can put your answers in the chat. There can be more than one solution as well. You can make your own assumptions too. External system is the third party system over here. So Salesforce is connected to a third party system that manages orders like SAP. Try to find the keywords over here. External system managing the orders and real time. So we just don't want to find the pattern, but also the solution. What could be your solution? What integration capability you will suggest over here? Okay. Request and reply if we use Salesforce UI or UI update if we integrate the external system UI into Salesforce. Yes, that can be a solution. Now, when you have two solutions in mind, always remember you have to tell your client about the best fit solution based on their landscape. There may be one client which will find solution one more helpful. The second client will find solution two more helpful. No solution is right or wrong. Always remember that. So our first approach to solving a case here should be first find out the layer. Remember the questions? It's on the business layer because they want to manage the order, right? Managing is at the business process. It's a logical process. Volume, it's not specified, so you can assume it's low volume right now. Timing is synchronous, it's real time, right? They said it's real time over here. And then the direction. The direction initiates from Salesforce because someone has to manage orders in Salesforce. So first it goes from Salesforce to the other system. The other system retrieves the order and sends it back to Salesforce. So Salesforce to the system and system to Salesforce. Got it? Yes. I don't know how to pronounce. Is this Jesus, the name? But Salesforce Connect with OData can also be a solution, given in mind that you don't want to control the data in Salesforce or not do any transactions. Because here it says your integration is to connect your external systems to Salesforce to manage your orders in real time. If I have to write triggers, transactions in Salesforce, then I would store the data in Salesforce. If I don't have to do anything, then I can very well use SF Connect with OData. So if you have an assumption that we are not doing any transactions on orders, we are not managing, then OData is the right answer. But here, since the manage keyword is here, I would say some transactions are happening. So I can store the data back in Salesforce. Okay. But if I want to store the data back in Salesforce, the right solution would be first in Salesforce, there is a user interaction, a user space, or a flow that is letting the user trigger the integration to the external system. So they are making an order request. Hey, can you share this order information with me? Then external system says, yes, find this order in me, and here is my order response. So now, once I get the orders, I can manage the orders inside Salesforce. And the pattern is request and reply. Got it? The most important thing here is to draw a diagram and explain it to your stakeholders. You have won 75% of the battle while struggling with integration if you can draw and explain it. If your arrows in the right direction, pattern is right, if your storytelling is right, you have won 75% of the battle. Because many a times the problem with us as architects, and unfortunately that is the problem worldwide, that we are not able to explain our solutions or articulate our solutions in a right way. Maybe we are right. Yes, we are always right. We have the technical knowledge. We are good. But then if we can't make it understand to the person who's in front of us, that doesn't make us win. Especially the stakeholders, the business stakeholders will not understand your technical terminologies. So always make sure you read the room first, whom you're talking to, what kind of information you want to share, and just tell a story. If you want to tell a story, draw a diagram and just make it happen. Now we have a second use case. A telecom company wants to use Salesforce as a front end for creating accounts using lead to opportunity process. An order is created in Salesforce when opportunity is closed and won, but the backend ERP system is the data master. The order must be saved to Salesforce opportunity record and the opportunity status change to indicate the order was created. So it's a CRM system, a classic example of CRP to order management ERP system integration. We have lead to opportunity process. The moment we win the opportunity, the order gets created, and that order should be related to the opportunity as well. You can go and ask yourself the same questions again: the layer, the volume, the timing, and direction. This time it does not impose this to be real time. So you can devise a good solution here. It can be a complex one. Do not be afraid to introduce a middleware. It has a middleware and a solution. And it can be more than one integration. It is more than one integration actually. The first one is wherein you notify the external system that an order gets created. And now, since the external system is the master, every order changes are happening there. So you have to let Salesforce know in the second integration what is happening to the order. Updates to the order are updated in the second integration call. So there are two integration and two integration patterns. Anyone? Yes, Alejandro. It can be a solution, yes. Yes, Jesus, this can also be a solution if it's not real time. You're right. All right, so let's see what I've got over here. Your answers are right as well. The first one, it's a business layer. The volume I've assumed is small. The timing is async because I don't need to necessarily know it. The direction is first Salesforce to the external system, and we are also going back from the other system to Salesforce. In that case, Salesforce, ESB, ERP. Now I've gone, since I work with a lot of enterprise systems, they all have an ESB, Enterprise Service Bus, like MuleSoft. Let's assume this is a MuleSoft system, which is a middleware. Now, how does a middleware act with? I've just complicated this a little bit. Your solutions are right. It's just that this is more real to what exists in current systems. You write a record triggered flow on opportunity. So when your opportunity is close one, it will catch it. And it will fire a platform event to this ESP. When this platform event is fired, it will send the opportunity and account details saying, hey, an opportunity and account is there, and create an order in ERP. Once an ERP populates all the details respective to the order details are being sent back to ESB in a separate thread. And when ERP knows an order is created, it creates it in Salesforce and relates it to the opportunity that was given over here. This is a fire and forget. Oops. This is a fire and forget because it's just notifying ESP that, hey, opportunity is one. Now you do whatever you want to do, create an order. And then there's a remote column because ESB notifies Salesforce with a standard REST web service by hitting the endpoint of creating an order. So if you look at Salesforce side, we did not end up writing any piece of code. We do not need to do much error handling as well. It's a straightforward process for us. And being more than 80% declarative is what makes us win as a Salesforce project and go to market much easily. I would have used patch data saying request and reply, but then I did not needed that. And I used everything that was point and click over here. That makes it a best fit solution, at least ideally. If the scenario was different a little bit, if it was a different organization, it would have varied. Before I go to planning, do we have any questions from the audience? Any technical questions of what we have covered so far, from the patterns, from the capabilities, and from the use cases? Because once you have done these three things, you have won the technical battle completely, entirely, as a technical architect or solution architect. No? Okay. So we move to planning. Some pointers are here, and you can have your own. First thing is to have clear cut diagrams. There should be two kind of diagrams or sketches. The first one is a high level diagram or system landscape, wherein your complete dictionary of all the systems present in your enterprise should be there and how they are connected. So I can have Salesforce in the middle and then connect it to my ERP, and you would find very beautiful diagrams on the architect's website of Salesforce. Let me just get that for you really quickly. Yep. So if you go here, you have Salesforce diagram overview on architect.salesforce.com, and you have so many different diagrams, and you can just filter on system landscape and you'll see different system landscapes. And one such generic system landscape is this. I can open up it in Google Slide and just edit it as per my needs. So you see, all the systems in my enterprise are over here. I have Data Cloud, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and integrated by MuleSoft, which is a middleware, to external systems like data warehouse, lakes, microservices, on-premise systems, AWS. If you want to add another system here like SAP, you can add it as well and make it look like your own and personalize it. So this is very important to have this high level diagram. It makes sure that you understand these are my customer 360 systems. They only interact with MuleSoft, and MuleSoft helps them interact with other systems with help of these arrows. Similarly, you should have a low level per integration diagram, what we saw over here, to make sure everybody understands what story you are telling. Should be able to define the number of interfaces in design phase and circulate it with appropriate teams. Every integration should be numbered and should have an identifier, and it could tell that, hey, this is what my integration is about, this is the business use case associated to it, and the pattern, the volume, and everything. You should have a dictionary about it. Postman should be your best friend. You should have capability with you on your own laptops to mock an API, test it, solve it for your team. Salesforce API, if you, I can do another search for you. So I don't know if it's visible. Is my Postman visible to you? Can you see my Postman?
No, Neha. I see only the presentation.
I will reshare
Yeah.
my screen to you. Now, can you see it?
Yes. Now I can see.
Okay. So there is a good library of Salesforce platform APIs that you can hit with Postman. So if you want to create an S object, right, and you want to create accounts, for example, I just ran this yesterday with a training class that I teach. I wanted to create a platform event in Salesforce. I wanted to publish it. So I did a mock in Postman and said it's an external system. I hit this URL and published a platform event from outside a Salesforce to Salesforce just by using REST API. So this one should be your best friend because you can now put your JSON over here, show them the request body. This is not going to work right now since it's not connected, but it should show you the response. My session got expired and the session codes and everything. So like I said, this should be your best friend. Barbara says that Salesforce notation is now available on raw.io in case you want to use it for documentation. That's awesome because that's if I heard correctly, it's not a paid account. Raw.io is free, right? It's more affordable, yes. Okay. Amazing. That's good. Work closely with your project managers and scrum masters. Proactively work on defining dependencies. If you know that certain system needs an API developed in sprint 1 instead of sprint 3, to avoid blockers, you should proactively go talk to them and tell them that, hey, this is something that you should prioritize because they will never know it. Everything depends on you, relies on you. Never think that, hey, this is not my job to plan and do things. No, it's yours. There's only you who are trying to do this and trying to understand things in a way that nobody else would. So please try to help your BAs and POs, try to train them and understand that if the situation happens again, how they should reprioritize in your absence and try to give them as much knowledge as possible. Keep in mind about attritions and budget changes. Budget changes like Salesforce Connect comes with an additional cost. Change data capture comes with an additional cost. So make sure your project has budget about it before suggesting it as a solution or finalizing as a solution. And based on that, you estimate your project. Attritions, many resources would leave the project. They would leave the agencies as contractors or employees, and new people would join up. So based on the tenure of your project, please keep in mind that if at all some key people are leaving, you have the right documentation in place so that your project is not impacted. Should have weekly integration updates with all tech leads within different systems. So if it's an SAP system, a MuleSoft system, a Salesforce system, all the tech leads should be meeting every week to define the status of each interface that you defined in step number 2 and see if there are any blockers, milestones, dependencies that you can help each other. And seventh, best practice is to not replicate any API. Make sure that all the APIs are unique, and if there is something already implemented, how you could reuse it. And the best use case of this to do is via MuleSoft. MuleSoft will help you not replicate the UI APIs, and it will help you reuse the APIs that are there. So that was it. This was all about the planning of the integration maze that you occurred. So first you understand the business requirement, design it, build it, and plan it according to these pointers that I've presented. And with that, I want to conclude my presentation and open the floor for questions. No questions?
You can use the chat. I think that you can't enable your microphone, but you can put your question directly on the chat. Even if it's in Spanish, you can leave your question here.
Yes.
But it seems that like your presentation was very clear, Neha. We have only greetings and thank you for you on the chat. And I think that most of the questions that the people left were answered by you. So, well, I think that we can close here. Thank you so much, Neha, for your time, for your amazing presentation. It was very thoughtful. So thank you so much for your time and hope you have
I
a really good day.
I just to add, if right now the questions are not coming up, you can always get in touch with me on LinkedIn, and I will try to answer your questions over there. So my LinkedIn ID is over here. Oops, I'll just paste it. Just give me a moment, sorry. The copy paste is not working. I don't know why.
No worries at all, because we will leave your LinkedIn link on the YouTube channel, and also we'll leave your LinkedIn ID on the PPT. So I think that in case you need to reach out to Neha, you can use the PPT. You will have the YouTube video, and for sure we will post this video on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think I got it. So
Yeah.
thanks.
Amazing.